Carl Jung's lecture delivered to the clergy in Switzerland stands out as one of his most profound and insightful presentations. It provides a deep understanding of the human experience, the ethical challenges we encounter, and the journey toward authentic healing and self-awareness. Central to this lecture is the fundamental human need for acceptance, not only from others but, more crucially, from ourselves. Jung emphasizes the importance of facing the darkest aspects of our psyche and suggests that through this confrontation, transformation, and transcendence become possible. He begins by highlighting a straightforward but impactful truth. Even doctors, whose role is to heal, are not exempt from moral dilemmas and discomfort. He points out that some patients' confessions can be difficult, even for a professional healer to accept. This observation underscores a universal human challenge when confronted with another's vulnerability, especially when that vulnerability exposes something profoundly disturbing. It's natural to recoil, yet Jung insists that genuine healing depends on embracing the worst within a person. Such acceptance cannot be reached through mere words or intellectual reasoning. It requires deep contemplation and a sincere stance of compassion and understanding. This idea leads to one of Jung's most groundbreaking concepts that the healer, guide, or companion must face and accept their own shadow side. He writes, "If the doctor wishes to lead another or even walk a step alongside, he must feel into the depths of that person's psyche." Yet, judgment, whether loud or hushed, never truly touches this inner shadow. Judgment carves a chasm, pushing the wounded soul into deeper isolation, burying them beneath layers of shame and despair. What must arise instead is an untainted objectivity, but this objectivity is far from cold. It breathes as a darkened sacredness, a grim devotion to the brutal truth, to the haunted man crushed beneath it, and to the sinister enigma haunting such a life. Jung's choice of the word riddle pierces the veil. It speaks to the tangled web of agony, choice, and unseen forces clawing within the soul. To meet another with this clear, unclouded gaze is to acknowledge a terrifying complexity, demanding a deep, trembling humility and a whispered nod to the divine, not as redemption, but as a lurking presence that molds the shadows of our existence. Jung's words chill when he states, "The truly religious person senses in everything the unseen presence of the divine." This haunting vision transmutes healing into a solemn rite, not merely mending the shattered, but wandering through the cryptic darkness of another's life's curse. The starkest truth Jung imparts is that nothing shifts unless it is first swallowed whole. Acceptance precedes any change. Condemnation is not a release. It is a cage forged from shadow and despair. This stark assertion confronts the haunting urge within us to cast judgment and exile what disturbs or disgusts in others, and within our own fractured souls. Jung reveals a cruel twist when we condemn another. We bind ourselves into the role of their tormentor, denying them the bleak yet vital possibility of growth, healing, or escape from the dark. Likewise, condemning shards of our own being turns us into prisoners of anguish, splintering the psyche into a labyrinth of torment and thwarted transformation. Jung drags us deeper into the abyss by confronting the grim moral dilemma of self-acceptance. He declares, to accept oneself is the fulcrum of moral struggle and the ruthless trial of one's entire existence. This idea is no gentle truth, but a challenge that claws at the soul. It is a far simpler task to extend kindness or forgiveness to others, visible acts performed in the light, yet to wield that same mercy within, to embrace the twisted, detested fragments lurking in our inner darkness, demands a terrifying blend of courage and brutal honesty. It is to stare into the void of ourselves, knowing that what stares back might warp or consume us. Jung paints this haunting image with a chilling metaphor. What if buried deep within me lurk the lowest wretches, the poorest beggars, the shameless offenders, even the very devil himself? This is the heart of Jung's unsettling truth. The enemy we fear and must learn to accept, the beggar we must feed, dwells within our own shadows. Yet instinctively, we recoil from this dark inner reality, concealing it, condemning it, and battling it with fury. In doing so, we tear ourselves apart, not only severing ties with what is truly us, but pushing away the divine presence that seeks entry through these rejected, despised fragments of our soul. Jung's path into self-acceptance casts a stark light on modern man's plight. He notes that today's individual shuns the idea of imitating Christ, instead desperate to carve out an isolated identity. In this cry for uniqueness, we glimpse the deep existential void of our age, caught between the rigid chains of conformity and the chaos of selfhood. This struggle, Jung warns, is no mere act of selfish rebellion, but a raw spiritual hunger for reconciliation with the darker corners of our being. Only by facing the shadowy enemy that dwells in our own hearts can we glimpse true peace or fulfillment. Perhaps the most terrifying hurdle in this descent is confronting egoism, facing the monstrous self that insists on being alone, king of a desolate throne. To stand in the dark and meet this inner fiend is to risk everything, but to turn away is to doom the soul to endless war within. Jung recognizes that egoism is commonly perceived as a distinctly negative force, especially in moments of neurosis, yet he warns against oversimplified condemnation. He writes, "If I wish to effect a cure for my patients, I am forced to acknowledge the deep significance of their egoism. I must even help the patient to prevail in his egoism." Though it may appear paradoxical, Jung's meaning is that egoism, when embraced and understood, can become a fragile foundation for growth and resilience. Only by fully confronting and enduring their egoism can a person hope to rise beyond it and rediscover the fragile threads of belonging and community. Jung's reflections culminate in a somber truth about transformation. What was evil has turned to good, and what seemed good has kept alive the forces of evil. This principle of enantiodromia, the swing into the opposite, reveals a restless, almost tragic rhythm of life. Through this painful process, the divided parts of the self may reconcile, yet not without scars, bringing an uneasy peace that allows for reluctant healing. This lecture transcends theory. It is a muted guide through the tangled shadows of human experience. Jung's words push us to peer inward with a mixture of sorrow and compassion, to face the discomforting truths of our fears and biases, and to grasp the tragic totality of our humanity. He reminds us that true healing does not efface what is fractured but weaves brokenness into something heavier, more complex, and endlessly unfinished. In the end, Jung's address to the clergy remains a poignant and timeless meditation on our ceaseless struggle with self-acceptance, the bitter burden of self-love, and the enigmatic sorrow of transformation. His insights endure, resonating like a quiet echo of hope amid the relentless shadows of the human soul.